Today, the Friends of the Massachusetts Veterans Memorial Cemetery, celebrated at Agawam, hosted the inaugural event to recognize the contributions of their volunteers as well as their staff at the cemetery for their efforts throughout the year. Western Mass News stopped by the dinner where we caught up with President Paul Baravani, who tells us this event was their first attempt at bringing together different constituents and people and groups of people that volunteer their time at the cemetery as a way of saying thanks for their support.
They volunteer their time expecting nothing in return, but the fact that we would say, yes, you deserve something in return.
Now, at the end of May, they will have their brick and bench dedications for those who sponsor the cemetery in honor of their loved ones.